In regards to the narcissist and the situationship you find yourself in, you do get the negative karma, the negative reaping for just being in the situationship, because you have made a covenant or a contract or a consent to spend your personal time with an evildoer. And in the case of you, you're also agreeing to switch energy with them, because just being in the sight of them and being in a situationship with them, living with them or having intercourse with them, you're going to be flipping energy, even if you're gray rocking all the time. Intercourse leaves you wide open. So that's very dangerous. You will find that intercourse, it may have been something you were pretty loose with years ago, but after waking up to narcissism, the covert types and what they entail, especially if you get on the spiritual side of things, like I guess I preach every day, and you realize that they're dealing with dark energy attachment, then you're gonna also realize whatever you're dealing with to some degree is gonna be dark energy that may have attached to you. Now, it may not possess you, but it causes hindrances. It may be an outside attachment, especially if you're dealing with a spiritual narcissist. The spiritual narcissist is more the diabolical, malignant type, the dark triad, those type of narcissists where they are going to be doing spell work, running spell work on you when they're not with you. So they can keep you from getting into new relationships while they're gone, to keep you bound to them. They will put binding spells and root work on you and leave cursed items in your home, try to feed you cursed spell work, food with spell work, where they'll put sometimes bodily fluids in food and then give it to you, or drinks. Also give you substances in drinks and food without you knowing, to keep you messed up. And these are the types that become cult leaders. They may start out in a secret society, like a Freemason or an Eastern Star type, and then they may either open their own branch or their own subsidiary, because they want it to be together but separate, and they may get more diabolical as they cause that bifurcation in a secret society. And that's what you'll see sometimes, and that's where you get the independent cult scenarios, where they're affiliated and unaffiliated, or they were affiliated, and then because they caused so much diabolical damage, they may have been, what would you call it, not disbarred, but disenfranchised or excommunicated from the secret society because they're too much of a liability. And secret societies, this is the thing, even people that work with dark witchcraft, black magic, and spell work that's diabolical, they still abide by a certain type of rule and leadership. And the same thing goes for secret societies. There are, I'll say this, because if you're a believer of God, a lover of God, you're going to know they're not good for humanity. They're either benevolent to society, and it just depends on what rank you're in and what branch of these secret societies and what type. It's just kind of like church denominations, except they are more believers of a pagan lifestyle, and some of them on another level, some of them on the lower ranking class of things, like a 3rd degree Mason is not going to operate like a 33rd degree Mason. So you're going to get different sects and different ranking, so they're going to be at different levels. There's going to be a hierarchy, there's going to be a spectrum with anything. But if you believe the word, you're going to know it's not right for you, or it goes against the word. I like to talk about these things with a level head. I know a lot of people in church would just condemn them, and I'm not condemning them or saying they're good. I'm just, you know, you got to accept the fact that life is what it is, and you're not going to change the world. You can spark change, maybe, in certain groups of people that can affect the world and maybe bring change to the world. But we all have to understand, because you're a believer, it's not gonna, you can't just look at everybody else as being evil or diabolical. And in some cases, even in Christianity, there's a lot of diabolical stuff that goes on under that title, under that so-called leadership or hierarchy. But a lot of times what you're going to find is the church is going to be, the real true church of Christ is going to be really on the ground, doing groundwork, more like in the trenches. They're going to be largely unpopular. So when you see Christianity as a whole on TV and all that, yeah, some of them are saved believers, but there's going to be a lot amongst that crowd that are not. And there are going to be a lot that are just drinking off the milk of the word, and they never really advance to anything higher. I'm just saying this because this is what happens with these secret societies, and I like to keep it balanced when I talk about things, because we're not going to change everybody. And so, to some degree, we need to get off of that thinking, because it becomes a bullying situation, and God doesn't work by bullying individuals. He eventually will make his leadership known in situations and circumstances where there's injustice going on for a period of time, and nobody righteous has stepped in to take care of business. But even then, he's not really bullying, he's just putting down a law we should have fought for, and nobody stepped up. I guess what I'm saying is, just because they're in those secret societies doesn't mean they're the most evil people in the world, and some of them are. But a lot of them are just regular. I like to look at them as regular old humanity, and they may, you know, they just have different beliefs as I do in most cases. Now, at the other levels, it can be diabolical. I don't know enough about them. I know enough about what the Illuminati is about, and at some point in time, anything outside of being a believer is going to be the cult. They all may have different ideas or thoughts, but the cult just means to me, well, it's secret, yeah, but it also means to me that it's just outside of what the word asks us to do and the beliefs of the word. So they may not even get along from one cult to the next, but they're all the cult, because anything that's of the enemy is going to be the cult, and the cult runs the world. So they may not get along, but they are all the cult outside of Christianity, in my opinion. But that, like I said, it doesn't mean that it's going to be something we need to be necessarily concerned about, except for making change, trying to form change in the world in a good way. But I think it's going to come from setting the example and saying what you mean and meaning what you say. And as you become that standard bearer, people who want to have a better life with Christ, they may see the light in you and decide to follow their own journey to understand Christ and to get to know him in a personal relationship. I guess my point is sometimes you're going to have people that are going to be in different sects of religion, and you're going to have to agree to disagree and work the best you can for the whole, as long as it doesn't cause any disruptions in your relationship with Christ. And so that's my point. My point is it could just be like somebody who just goes to a different church group than you do. I mean, that's how I would look at most of the lower end secret societies or whatever, or these Freemasons, Eastern Stars, Shriners and things like that. They're usually respectful and responsible, and they don't like when people open subsects of spin-offs from their culture of their form of leadership and rule, because they do have rule. That's my point. And I guess I wanted to talk about the narcissist, and when you're with them, you're always going to be switching energy. So you're going to pay for that negative reaping, and just being in a situationship with them, you're agreeing to be in a covenant contract of consent, lower your boundaries down to a low standpoint, and not have enough self-love. And if you woke up in the middle of it, you may have circumstance, or you may be in fear, which isn't good either. I think, you know, when you are on your healing journey, it's not how fast you do things as much as it is you want to see a good progressive forward march of being better than you were before. Gauge that from year to year. But when you're with a narcissist, the problem it also shows is that it kind of degrades truth, and it makes the lie look like the truth and the truth look like the lie. So that's the other point I wanted to make, because when the narcissist is with you, they're switching energy with you, and they may not deal with negative reaping as much as they should. And then people will say, well, the truth doesn't matter because look at this guy, he's a narcissist, or she's a narcissist, and they don't look like they're paying for what they should be because of all the destruction that they're creating on a daily basis. But that's because you're shielding them. So you're kind of you're kind of a false witness, and that's where you end up paying for negative reaping as well. And that could be on another level. Could be, it's a double whammy. And I don't know if the narcissists, the spiritual ones, know this, because they usually know universal law very well. And that's what witchcraft is about. It's about deceiving and convincing people that things are when they're not. So it's going to be manipulation, gaslighting, and lying, cheating, and stealing. But being able to get out of it and not have to reap the negative reaping or karma that comes along with it by shielding themselves in people that understand good emotions of the 9 fruits of the spirit and walk in some sort of truth, then they are just naive to narcissism and all of the principles that go along with, say, God's universal law, or some of the biblical aspects that suggest we shouldn't be with certain individuals, or they're just laxed on their what they choose to do until they wake up. But when you wake up and you want to be abundant, you got to walk away from that stuff and cut ties and cut cords with them. So it's kind of like this: the narcissist is with you for what you can do for them and how you make them feel, right? That's what they always say. What do you love about me? I love the way you make me feel. But it's short-lived, because you can't make them feel good forever. And that's because they're energy vampires. So they're going to drain you and take all of your fruits, talents, and gifts. And the whole time they're going to be degrading you, manipulating you, gaslighting you, cheating, lying, and stealing from you, even if it's just stealing fuel. And after a few months, they're going to cycle with somebody else, because you're going to start to buck back with them and feel like it's not a fair situationship, because it's not. But you're generally not going to do that when you're unhealed until you run out of fuel, and they're still bossing you around, cheating on you, and treating you like crap. And then you'll take them back a few months down the road, because maybe 3 to 6 months later, after they've cycled with somebody else, when they tell you they've changed, or they had some new epiphany, or they decide to listen to what you told them, and that's all just lies. It's just because they want to recycle. They want to recycle with you, and they want to implement more degradation into your life, more control and power over your life, and they want to suck more fuel, and so they can be shielded and manifest to get another form of supply when they leave you. They do it for survival, period, because they cannot produce any of the good fruits that they need for survival in this world. to get their next source of supply, and to keep them from looking in the mirror at themselves. So they want to run around, keep their pipeline full. As a player, or in that player energy, escort energy, they're always selling themselves. It's not funny, but it is what it is. That's what complete unhealing looks like, or someone completely unhealed looks like, because that's what it is. But it becomes demonic because the dark energy takes over, and they lose all truth, and they lose the ability to even feel love. And with that, causes them to be nothing but destroyers. And that's truly what they do when they're in your life. And getting away from them is difficult as well, because they destroy on the way out, and they destroy on another level when you refuse to take them back anymore. But I guess what I'm saying is, when the narcissist is with you, they're using you for shielding. They're using you for your fuel, your gifts, talents, and your energy. But they're also using you to shield them from their karma, to help them to manifest things in their life that are good, because they don't generate goodness at all. But they're also, trying to cloak themselves to make the lie look like the truth, and the truth to make it look a lie. So what you're dealing with there is their intent, and that's where you get nailed. You get nailed with negative reaping, because you're with somebody, and you always have to be concerned on whoever you're going into a partnership, a situationship, relationship, any sort of covenant, contract, consent to spend your personal time with, even in business as well, or in other organizations and things, is what is the intent of the individual that you're working with. If the intent is to harm you, to hurt you, then you're going to uncover yourself, and you will have injury points in your auric field. And that could be very dangerous, especially if they are unalivers or through spell work. And it's how everything is perspective. You have to see things from the right perspective, especially when you're healing. You may not want to forgive the narcissist, but it's necessary for you to heal completely, to be whole, or to a state of balance. You have to let that stuff go and give it to God. You don't have to necessarily tell them, but you have to let that energy go. So I know that can be difficult. I had a tough time with that, but that's what they want you to harden your heart, and they want you to have blockages to all your pathways. And to block all your abundance and your abundant pathways is to block your chakras. And your chakras are some of the foundational, they're just energetic energy wheels is kind of how they're described, but there's 7 of them, but they just deal with your emotions, and blockages to your emotions, or blockages to your thinking, to be clear, or to be able to receive, or to give, like love. They can block your heart chakra, and you may not love for a long time because you're jaded. And the longer you stay unhealed, the worse it's going to be for you, or you manifesting anything abundant in your life. And those are the things they want you to deal with when they're not with you, even when they're with you. Because maybe the narcissist doesn't know they're in a war of good and evil, but the dark energy attachment knows very well that they're playing a game of chess with you. It's spiritual warfare in the physical form, and they come to light workers. So just beware. But it's the intent. So everything has intentions. When you were with the narcissist, your intention were to be in a relationship with them, not a situationship. But when you realize that and come to the understanding that they were in a situationship with you the whole time, that was their intent. So for you to continue down that road with them is to say that you're in agreement with their intent. And that's how it works in the universal law that God put into the foundations of this world to keep it balanced. So at some point, the more you know about the narcissist, the more you're going to be liable for, and the less grace you will have upon your life during the time where you're living outside of what you know to be true. And you'll end up getting more negative reaping than you did originally because you were naive before, or at some point. It's when you're naive, there's some grace there, but grace only goes so far. Part of it is because the Lord wants you to elevate and to build and to grow so he can use you. And so he can chisel out things in your life so that you can be a tool for his use, or a vessel for his use. And it's the intent. So everything, you have to look at the intent, and you have to see it from the right perspective. You want to look at it from a righteous one, really. Thank you for watching.